Well, hello. I think we're live. So, this is the very first live, and we're part of the Harmony Festival. And I'd like to introduce straight away, because we're running a little bit late, had some tech difficulties as usual, Freya. And I'm just so glad that you are now part of Beyond Being Human. And you've got lots and lots of gifts to impart to everyone during our next rollout of different shows and things. But maybe just to start us off, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Thank you, Michael. It's an absolute privilege to be part of Beyond Being Human. It's the first project in a while that I've been very excited about. The incredible crew that you've brought together to facilitate this amazing consciousness change movement is just profound. So well done. So a little bit about me. Well, I went through an awakening process, a rapid onset awakening process when I was 23, and I'm now pushing towards 50. So it was a little while ago. And that completely changed everything, like in a nanosecond. I would just describe it as a remembering of all of the gifts that are innate within a human being through their multidimensional nature, and the ability to, access that information and then work with it in the world. And it took a long time to integrate that. And on the journey to doing that, then I worked through learning a lot of different healing modalities. I also engaged with working with Aboriginal people and I've been through various different initiations with various different tribes over the 20 plus years. I teach a shamanic crystal modality and have written my own work. And how Michael and I engaged in that was through Peace Angels Project, which was actually being founded by my sister-in-law, who is Antoinette Sampson. That's how we met, because he was making an amazing documentary, and it was instant that we, had a wonderful connection, and then we reconnected again through and quite an incredible journey. I've just got back from a couple of months ago from Europe, where I spent a lot of time in crop circles and things like that. So yes, in the process of creating amazing spiritual journeys for people to come on to experience those and all sorts of other things. So Michael, thank you for allowing me to introduce myself. Do you want to share a little bit about the Peace Angels?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was a really absolutely phenomenal event. And I'm so glad someone from the Peace Angels actually gave me a flyer. And as soon as I saw it, alarm bells rang, or not alarm, but like, okay, you've got to be part of this in whatever way. And as I'm a filmmaker, I decided, well, the best thing is let's make a documentary. And so then spending the next 6 to 8 months, I think it was, or even longer, following the rehearsals and getting to know everybody. And even that was a really beautiful kind of thing. But the event itself was mammoth. So much work went into it, months and months and months of work, and your costumes were prominent, to say the least. And I watch it more than I think any other videos that I've ever done in my life. I watch it 2 or 3 times a year, probably.
I can share a little bit about my involvement with that. When the Peace Angels were being created, it wasn't just about people dressing up in costumes and walking down the street. It was a public performance. It was absolutely extraordinary. It was people spent months and months embodying angelic frequency and connecting with their personal angel and really bringing that energy close to them and within them to work with them so that they could bring that beautiful angelic frequency into Sydney. It was run in Sydney. To be in the presence of that was absolutely gorgeous. Like it was life-changing, just the frequency that all of these men and women were able to anchor and bring through. And I was lucky enough, having had a background in fashion design prior to going through my awakening, I was able to design most of the costumes and the wings for that. It was quite a process to do, but I'm very happy I was able to do that. And also I channeled a prayer shawl that Ananda Neti wore, which took, I cannot tell you how many hours, because it was all hand sewn, and I was doing mantras and being in sacred space as I was making that for her. It actually had a huge pair of angel wings that were lots of tiny bits of fabric that were laid out and then hand sewn. I think it took me something like 2 weeks solid work to make that one garment. The other thing that happened, because that was came about through the work that Antoinette Sampson, who was spiritual name is Ananda Neti. My birth name is Freya. My spiritual name is Savitri or Savitri, however you prefer to say it. I don't mind. We started doing that work through Shanti Mission, which is in also the hub of that is in Sydney. So the head of that school, Shakti Durga, had said to Ananda Neti when she was like, "Oh, I'm not sure, where should we go? How should we walk through the streets? I think Hyde Park would be a good idea," but she wasn't quite sure at the time. And Shakti Durga said to Ananda Neti, she goes, "You should ask Savitri, because she's a reincarnated sacred geometry master and she'll know." And which was news to me at the time. I hadn't really sort of tapped into that part of things yet. And she was 100% right. I was able to then just look at a map from above and then go to Hyde Park and look at the location of the memorials and the fountain and the other things that were laid out, where the walk paths were, where there was a particular street that went through 2 sections of Hyde Park. And I could see instantly, I was like, oh, okay, so this is the tree of life. And this monument is this Sephira. And the Sephira is one of the circles that you will see on the tree of life that are joined by the connecting channels. So I was able to identify exactly what the monuments represented, what they looked like, what the action was, because there was one where there was one of the gods was slaying a beast. There was all sorts of things going on, and instantly I knew the metaphysical purpose of that statue being at that location on that Sephira. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever tuned into any of that kind of thing, but there is, if you start to have a look around in just every city around the world, not just in Australia, there are the architects, the old architects of the city when they were founded, laid them out in particular alchemical formulas. When I went through my awakening, that was something that I instantly became aware of. I was aware of looking at a city from a distance because I could see Perth City, and I was like, oh, this is just a giant circuit board, and every single human being who's doing a job in those big buildings is effectively their energy field or their electromagnetic energy is being utilized as the electricity to move things, to store things, to collate, to data store, communicate, etc., etc. And so that expanded in my awareness into seeing how the bridges worked, the Cleopatra's needles, and all of the other things that went on. The next person I saw speaking about anything like that was many, many years later, and was Michael Tellinger. So I was able to help Ananda Neti with working out how the entire performance needed to move through that space in order to catalyze the energy that was being gifted as best as possible in the etheric dimension to gift that to the earth, to gift that to humanity, to the city, and to the world. Because every time we have these energy centers that are there on the earth, you would have heard of chakras and ley lines, which we might call meridians in a human context. Every time we work with those, we're able to direct energy and to send that out. And the project became bigger and went to various places around the planet, which was absolutely incredible. And it was a privilege to be a part of.
As we are kind of coming up to the end of our allotted time,
We'll just keep going for a bit.
Thing that I put on the title card for this is about angels. So I guess you're going to ask me about
yeah. Can you tell us? Because that was really what was the catalyst for Beyond Being Human to become born, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So it's several years ago now. And I was in a self-development workshop with Robert Kirby in Sydney. And just one other person in the room. We were doing a little question answer kind of thing. And suddenly I feel like massive energy coming through, and my crown chakra in particular just really expanding, and a lot of pressure actually. And so much so that I got even a little bit tearful at times and learnt to relax and just let it all flow. And at one point, I mean, the energy was just beyond anything I've ever experienced. And I've done rebirthing and various other kinds of things to induce energy, or all of that, and had some incredible experiences along the way. But this was absolutely massive. And I thought at one point I might be able to see the energy coming out of my hand. It was that strong. and I was just seated, and I looked down at my hand, taking my attention away from the person sitting right in front of me, and looked down at my hand, and it's like, wings? What? Wings? What's going on? And I refocused to her, thinking I'd see her, but I actually couldn't see her. And there was someone just walking past me in the background there. And the room had taken on a little bit of a spherical thing, though I sort of wasn't paying attention to that. As I was looking forward, I could see behind me. And I've talked since to a number of people who say they have heard that before, but also people who have experienced that. You get like a 360-degree vision, which was phenomenal. And what I was looking at was this very tall, very masculine, sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger muscle, the way I put it, and like a very chiseled face, a little bit longish hair, as I remember, but these two amazing white wings. And it was like no telepathy, no communication other than we're doing work here, kind of thing. Anyway, look, there is an interview on the Beyond Being Human website on my profile page if people want to hear more details about that. And that's beyondbeinghuman.org/Michael Ney as one word. And the rollout over time, slowly but surely, I was getting other kinds of inspirations and little messages. And it led to the form of a documentary process. Really, the whole shaping of the website now, as well as the organization, has come from inspiration of various types of things. So I'd get a little word like consciousness or shamanism or something else, and then someone else I'd be introduced in some way watching a video. It's like, oh, and I'd feel this sort of energy like, oh, I really want to contact them and talk to them about all of this. And that is how the flight crew has grown. And we're now rolling out all of these different videos. And The thing is, too, that the Patreon event itself is now kind of really accelerating everything. We're going to be doing lots and lots of videos, and all of these conversations serve as research material for the documentary. And the website itself is meant to be like a library of information that people can come to before and after the documentary. Hopefully, we need to raise a lot of money for the documentary, of course. The Peace Angels thing was very dear to my heart, but that was a number of years before that event. And I look back now, and like so many little things in my life like lead me to, okay, this is why you're getting ready for this mission.
When Michael contacted me and asked me to have a look at the Beyond Being Human website, I have to say I was absolutely gobsmacked. I was blown away by the project and the vision for it, and the extent of the vision. It's not just like a one little documentary, it's like in several parts, and the contributors are incredible. There's people who are extraordinary leaders in their field in so many different aspects of multidimensionality. Everything from walk-ins to angels to earthbound spirits, poltergeists, the list goes on. Shaman, people who are doing some incredible projects themselves, beautiful books, all sorts of incredible things. It was really a deep investigation for me, and I read through every single person's profile. And I just got really, really excited. And the thing that excited me most of all was the amount of heart in the project. Michael has an enormous heart to want to bring this much into creation for humanity. I think, one of the interesting things is that I was doing a little video for Michael and I was talking about why I love the project. One of the things that occurred to me when I was sharing that information is that where we've come from as humanity in the last, let's even say the last 20 years or 30 years, it was like a weird word to say aura or chakra 20 or 30 years ago. And now that's become very, very common. People, almost everybody understands or has heard of it, and it's not weird. They don't sort of walk away from you and think there's something not quite right if you're mentioning that. That's not woo-woo anymore. And through basic meditation understanding, we know that, if we meditate, we feel better and life flows better. And then if we come together in groups, then the energy becomes exponential. Now, I believe that everyone's journey begins from a point of a question. It's a hero's quest, this spiritual evolution, this search for enlightenment, and it's really a journey because it never ends. But it's that one question: what am I doing here? Where have I come from? What's the purpose for my life, and what's actually going on this planet? Because as soon as we start asking those questions, and that the mind is open, and it's opening the mind and the consciousness to more answers. And the more of those questions that we're asking, the bigger the connection from our crown chakra all the way back from the third dimension through the etheric dimension, astral, and then to the soul, and then back to source. It's like a little brain pathway, when we have a thought or we develop a habit, we starts very small and then it becomes bigger and stronger. And the more of these questions we're asking, the more we're able to actually pull that information in from source. And then when we come together in these groups, like in Beyond Being Human, to ask and answer these questions to the best of our ability at this time, we're creating a high-speed connection or a consciousness superhighway, which really allows more and more to come through. So what was not normal 10, 20, 30 years ago is now normal. And by the time that we pass another 10 or so years, what more is going to be revealed to us? It's an incredible consciousness journey and experiment. Well, I mean, you must be so excited from all of the people you've spoken to.
just such an amazing bunch of people. The other thing is really that I'm just carrying on. I just get this inspiration, and it's like, okay, I can do that, and like all of my skills are being implemented in the whole project, and it's very, very involving in that aspect. And the thing that I'm trying to kind of cope with is the growth, and Patreon is a big, big step into that, and I'm really hoping people will participate. And I think it's great value. We're going to end up with like 2 shows a week, because there's a number of people doing one event per month. So it's like a whole mixture of different things, and we'll be exploring all of those particular topics, but also looking at what's going on in the world.
Can you just explain Patreon a little bit more for people?
Sure. So there's 2 ways to participate in Beyond Being Human. One's on the website. You become a member, and that's its own little process. And up to the end of the year, I'm actually doing like a 2-for-1 thing where if you join either of them, both can see all of the material up to the end of the year.
Amazing.
Patreon is a platform for people to do crowdfunding for particular purposes, like filmmaking is a very, very popular way, and that's what we're kind of doing too. The way it works is you pay a monthly fee. I think it's only around $12. We'll be having like private meetups as well, and doing these shows, like typically an hour show. It might go on longer than that. Anything that appears on Patreon with messages and all of that, and you get emails as a Patreon supporter all the time, what's going on, what's coming, all of that. That'll be posted on the website too. So it's like the 2-for-1 kind of thing. And there's many, many filmmakers on there because it does work.
Fantastic.
It's like low cost, and people get lots of value out of it. But yeah, tell me about your angel experience.
So it was not too long after I went through my rapid awakening. Going through my rapid awakening put me in a heightened state for a very long period of time. I think probably 12 months, I would say. I was very, very much connected through my crown chakra. So it's like transcending, really. People talk about transcendental meditation, but turn that on to steroids, and it's 24 hours a day. So that's how I would describe it. I was going through communicating with ascended masters and my team in spirit who loved me unconditionally. I'd anchored my blueprint, what I was here to do in this incarnation, and had also explored some of the finer mechanics of the different clair cities. And what I mean by clair cities, clair means clear, so like clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. Going into really high altered states where, I could suspend time and all sorts of things like that. It was a very intense time that I went through in that aspect. And very shortly after that, I had this feeling, right? And that's what I wanted to get mentioned before with the questions that we ask. They're coming from a feeling that there is something more going on. That's why we start to ask any questions. And I had a feeling that there was something I needed to really tap into. So I sat down this day on the floor, cross-legged, and the answers were not outside. So I had to go in and really tune into what is this feeling. And as soon as I accessed that, I would like to describe it as it felt as though from above, and an angel arrived. And this angel did not appear with wings or a human body or any of the things that you see in pictures or, books and things. This angel was pure, intense energy, extremely, like, completely compassionate, yet not mincing with words. And I have always said, since that time, the word angel and the word angle are the same thing, just with slight shift. So if we come back to the frequency of everything being sacred, geometry is the form through which love manifests, then I would like to say that this being was pure geometry and energy. And it came and encircled me with what I suppose you could think of as wings, but it was almost like a shaft, and just encircled me. And it was dark. It was like being in the void. It wasn't like the lightness that one would normally associate with angels. And I'm not going down the route of the fallen angels either. This particular angel was Archangel Azrael. And Archangel Azrael is the angel of death. And at one point, when I'm looking into the biblical side of things later on, discovered that Archangel Michael and Azrael changed. Michael stepped in, so I had a sense of that as well at the time. So this angel said to me, first thing out of its consciousness was, your father's going to die. And my emotional body erupted. It erupted with, inside it was silent, but inside I could hear myself scream, no, I'm not ready. And this angel just held the space for this emotion to erupt. But because it had containerized me, the energy did not go out into creation. It was like it was neutralized. And he just said to me, you have a choice. You can either continue with your plans to go overseas with your partner, or you can go home and attend to your dharma and complete your relationship with your father. And my entire being wanted nothing but to go overseas with my partner. There was the recognition that, that relationship would be over if I stayed. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that, I wasn't going to leave my father. As soon as I made that decision, Archangel Azrael said to me, okay, you have 6 months. He will be gone in 6 months. And he said, and then after that, you are going to assist numerous people over the course of your lifetime to consciously pass. And he gave me a list of all of the people in my family who were then going to pass and in what order. And it came true, every single one. It was my honor and my privilege to be involved with their passings. There has been other people who I've been involved with through my healing work and how that works. I'll give you an example of one time. My uncle said to me, he was training to be a minister, and then he fell out of that. He also came to the end of his life and was like, Freya, I'm not sure. I thought I knew, but now I don't know. And I said, well, I do. And I said, and, I can help you. And he said to me, how will that work? And I said, well, I have given you my word, and my word is my bond. And the beings that I work with know that, and they hear that. And so because I've given my word and you have asked, it will happen. I don't know how, but it will. And that is how it has occurred in every single case. So I was in Perth, he was in Albany, which is in the southwest of Western Australia, about 4.5 hours drive. I ran an extremely busy healing centre back then, and I never had a spare minute in my diary. And I had these 2 days that were not filled. And I thought, this is extremely odd. I was like, clearly something's, going on. I was like, all right, upstairs, what's happening? Next minute, I get a phone call from someone and they're like, can you do a house clearing on this property we've got, which is the very old building, the former governor's house in Albany. Took me 7 hours to clear that place. It was a big gig. So I said, well, I've got these 2 days because they wanted to sell the house. I said, it's not going to be enough time for me to drive down. So they're like, that's all right, we'll fly you down. So they popped me on a plane. I got down there, had let my uncle and cousins know I was coming, did the work, and then messaged my cousin and he said, Freya, if you're coming, you'd better come now. And so my uncle, because he knew I was coming, his soul was like, okay, I can go. And so I came straight after 7 hours of a flight and 7 hours of clearing this massive house to my uncle who was in hospice. And then I spent the entire night with him, and he went through the process of leaving his body. And it was absolutely beautiful. I sang to him one of the beautiful angel mantras and some other things that are very helpful, and amongst many other alchemical processes that I'm guided to go through with that. And he left his body, and I was able to be with my cousins for a short time, who were like my brothers. And then I got on a plane and flew home. And every single time, I've been sent on planes here, there, and everywhere to be with people when they pass in perfect time, because it's the divine's mechanics at work, and the angels and all of the other beings who love us unconditionally, who are working in the multi-dimensions, who create that process. I have to say, in the same way that it's an exquisite honour to be able to communicate with souls before their incarnation and to help them with coming into the world, because that is a death of sorts when you come into a body, and then you're born, and then you live your life, and then you go through another death, which is a birth of sorts. It is some of the most profound and heart-opening work that any soul could be engaged in. I thank Archangel Michael and Azrael and all of the other beings that I work with, and my soul, for being up for this gig.
Let's go play the clip now. And I'm also sharing a link to one of our previous discussion panels, which will be having more coming up. I'm just in the planning process of one on religion, spirituality, and other dimensions. And yeah, that's going to be fun. And so the link is on screen there. You can find it, of course, on the Beyond Being Human website. We might be ready to go.
When they walked through the city, they said people just stepped back. People said, oh, can you feel that? And Matthew Doyle did a beautiful smoking ceremony with Indigenous dancers. It's a very sacred service that he does. And as he was finishing that ceremony, Parvatima and Gayatri and all the cherubs arrived.
Kamui Wedayo, welcome. Yandalara, Elapokamalari. Peace be with you all, to all men and women.
was like a perfect moment in time with the celestial sounds of the bowls, and there were the peace angels, and there was just such a symbiotic resonance that occurred.
And at the end of the Welcome to Country, you know, I was thinking, where are the angels? I hadn't seen them. And I turned around and it was breathtaking. Because I'd never seen them in the complete dark, and they were coming from either side of Hyde Park.
Welcome everybody to Peace Angels Walking Light. We can as one release pain into the fire at the other end of the pool.
There was one piece of music I sang that is a Sanskrit chant utilised by gurus to burn up energy that's no longer required by people, like pain and suffering or sadness.
Friends of peace, in a few moments I will be inviting you to receive the World Peace Flame. And when you do, please take a moment to imagine the flame of peace in your own heart. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. May all beings live in peace. Bless you.
When the angels crossed over the abyss and we invited the public to cross over as well, we had the Jewish cantor blow the horn. It's like a celebration, it's a beginning, it's a declaration. And we of course had the beautiful singing of the Quran, which was just, it was incredible, especially to hear those two traditions together in their full glory.
Justice and peace may flourish in every heart and in every place.
And the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony.
And may people think of befriending one another.
There we go. The Peace Angels. Wow. It's such a great memory. Do you want to say anything more about the layout of the path?
When we incarnate into this realm, we are walking a pathway of the tree of life. It isn't a straightforward pathway, it's a zigzag. As we do that, the entries and exit points are different for each house or city or sephira, however you know them from whatever tradition. So we were really working with the energy that was contained in the earth, like a kundalini-like energy that, as the angels walked, it cleared the path in order for that golden energy to be able to surface and take its path up to where the war memorial, to transmute the energy of war into the energy of peace. And it was profound. There was numerous of us as we took that walk who were clairvoyant and such, who could literally see individually and collectively Archangel Michael come down within that war memorial on his knee and bring his sword down, and flame just in all directions through the entire city. It was mind-blowing. It was truly mind-blowing. And I feel like there's one thing I'd like to say about, in connection with this, and also with the, you know, the sacred gift that I've been given through my connection with angels, is that the clear message that Azrael and Michael had was that every single thing you think you've ever done wrong, you've ever judged yourself for, or that you've ever been judged for, let it go, because that is human. It's not how the divine perceives us or you, and that it's always safe to go home at the end of your incarnation. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we could probably just keep talking for hours and hours. I don't know. It's been about just under an hour now. Let's explore a little bit about what you're going to be bringing in your shows on Patreon once a month.
There are so many things that I can share with people. Obviously, talking more about angels, more about sacred geometry, everything from, you know, understanding more about our multidimensionality, from the basics, how we are kind of wired, and what each part of our multidimensionality is responsible for. Also looking at the cosmic time, you know, the Mayan calendar, but not in the traditional Mayan calendar sense, like Jose's work, which was the dream spell. So I do follow that, but also I work with liquid crystals, and that I find is phenomenal. I think that's very exciting. I think everyone on the planet can benefit from it. All sorts of things, everything from crystals, working, because I do an extraordinary amount of work with crystals, and they are my dear friends. And so to be able to share them will be absolutely wonderful. And anything else that I'm divinely guided to share. I feel like, you know, since, you know, it's been a 20 odd something years since remembering my connection to source and remembering my soul. A lot happens and you learn a lot over that time. And I'd like to be able to share as much of that as possible, everything from relationships. And at some point, you know, my beautiful divine partner, Christian, and I, our story, how we came to be in partnership, and how it is that we maintained our relationship through conscious dream work or under extraordinarily difficult circumstances for the first 2 years of our relationship, which is many more since then. It was that dream work. So we'd go to sleep and we'd have our relationship by distance, effectively through the dream space, and then we'd get to speak in the morning and the evening. and we would discuss the things that we were doing in our dreams. It took some years for us to be able to actually be physically connected in the world together. And so that was life-changing and creates an intimacy that bonds you in a way that is almost indescribable. Yeah, it's very, very precious. And it's another one of these things that we do have the capacity as human beings to do. But it is important that we have a foundation of knowing how to navigate such dimensions safely before we embark upon such things. I guess he was just lucky that I already knew what to do and actually had past life mastery in it, which I had to remind him of, but, you know.
Yeah, that's a very practical thing about being beyond human. It's one of our special gifts that not many people kind of experience and get into it. Obviously, everyone dreams to some extent, learning these sorts of things. And what's really interesting in terms of multidimensional beings and also bringing in the extraterrestrials is it's very often reported after you've had some kind of encounter, abduction maybe, or just even in astral realms, meeting different beings. There are various gifts that come, all of the spiritual gifts and telepathy and clairaudience, clairvoyance and things like that, but also musical gifts and art and Reiki. I remember Mike Cleland, who is the owl guy. He was talking about nearly every person that he talked to is like, he would say, oh, and you've become interested in Reiki? And everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people do spiritual healing after experiencing all of that. And it's funny that you're so involved in crystals, and I used to be in the mid-'80s. I did a magazine called The Crystal Visionary, and I ended up doing half a dozen issues of that. And then I went to America, and I put all of the issues into this book and did one issue afterwards and then stopped. But I'm actually thinking about picking it up again. And guess what? While I was in America, I met Jose Arguelles. I, in fact, went to his place in Boulder and did this interview. And what a wonderful guy. And yeah, I mean, that was a real highlight of a 2-month trip to America, meeting all sorts of crystal healers and people and teachers and what have you. But you'll be hearing more about that, folks.
Profound.
And, yeah. I was going to bring in Simon Deacon just to have a quick word about his show that we're doing tomorrow at the same time, midday. And by the way, I'd like Tanis to come on as well to say hi at the end. And she's our wonderful tech person behind the scenes, and we couldn't have done it without her. And here's Simon.
What a legend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Simon and I met through Mariana Lea, and we've done a number of interviews, or he has done the interviews with especially Michael Rhodes, and his intro video is up online now too. Tell us about what's going to happen tomorrow, Simon.
Tomorrow I will be talking about my beautiful divine energy healing modality that I'm very passionate about on my healing path, called vortex healing. Energy healing modality, kind of similar to Reiki, but very, very powerful and very multidimensional. It channels divine healing energies and a deeper essence of magical divine consciousness. It creates such incredible, powerful healing and unblocking, and it creates such a powerful acceleration of the healing process in both one's inner and outer reality. And it's very magical, and it's such an incredible blessing of healing and transformational healing to the world, especially something that's also incredibly awakening as well in terms of one's spiritual awakenings. I'm very excited to share all of that with everyone.
Hopefully we'll be on time for that one. I think we got the bugs ironed out now, and we love bugs. We couldn't live without the bees, and they're sort of bugs. But Tanis, come and say hi.
Hey everyone, I'm Tanis. I'll be doing one on Friday as well, and mine will also be about energy healing and forgiveness. We'll talk about 3 different qualities of energy or types of energy that we bring in. Reiki and an aqualite, which is an energy that heals the water within the body, as well as Nocti, which is a Pleiadian healing energy modality as well. It heals grief at a cellular level. Mm-hmm.
Just briefly tell us about the Galactic Alliance.
Yeah, so I'm a galactic ambassador as well with the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, partner organization for Beyond Being Human, as well as Twila Lifestyle. And what we do with the Alliance is basically we are working behind the scenes at the UN to have changes made to the conventions to allow for peaceful talks when the ETs do decide to have formal talks. We also have the money to create an embassy for them. So we're in talks with different countries at the moment to find a piece of land that is nonpartisan in order to build the embassy. So if we are actually having a conference coming up in November, take a look at the website there, Alliance number 4ET, and check the details there.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And thank you so much for being our tech person. So grateful.
My pleasure.
People can look up everyone who's involved on the Connect tab on the top menu. And there's pilots who are doing regular shows, and there's flight crew who do occasional shows, and sort of a bunch of people who advise me on different things. And we've got a ground crew too. Tanis is swinging between ground crew and pilots. And yeah, I actually hope in the next few months and year coming up to involve Sylvain from the Alliance a little bit more in our activities and do an interview and things like that. But also Zenka Caro, who runs LightNet. And that's a fantastic organization in its own right, and doing lots and lots of incredible classes about all of those gifts and things of being beyond human. Anyway, so look, thank you, Freya, as well. I think probably now is as good a time as any to wrap up. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on going all day. So thank you very much.